Okay, our second presenter will be Alfian Massagony, and he's a PhD student here at the University of Western Australia in the School of Agriculture and Environment.
Uh, Thank you very much for coming today. My name is Alfian Massagony, and my supervisor are Ram and Ben. Thank you for coming. Uh, Today, I will present my research proposal, and the title is Understanding Indonesian Energy Policy and Household Energy Consumption. And today, this presentation will consist of 5 main sections. I will start with the brief background or context of this research project, and then explaining about the research question developed and objectives of this project. After that, I will try to elaborate my study plan one by one. Well, this is the chart of per capita emission in the 10 biggest emitter countries in the world. Based on this chart, we can see that in 2020, Indonesia was in the 9th place with per capita emission of 5.4 tons per capita emission. Although this per capita emission, we can say that is quite low compared to some other developed country, let's say Australia with 22 tons per capita emission, or in the US about 15 tons per capita emission. In terms of total emission, actually, Indonesia was the 6th largest greenhouse gas emitter in the world. As we can see in this graph, in 2020, Indonesia accounted for about 1.4 gigaton CO2 equivalent, compared to with Australia again, in the same year only about 400 metric tons CO2 equivalent. And if we see the increasing trend of this emission, you can see it's almost consistently the same with other emitter countries like China or the US or India. Then when we break down this emission, the source of emission in Indonesia, we can see here, the main sector contribute to the emission in Indonesia were energy sector and land use change and forestry. And it is not surprising actually, because let alone oil fuel as the main energy supplier in Indonesia, of course, which is definitely, it is a fossil energy. In this electricity sector, you can see it in this graph, almost 90% of the sources of power plants in Indonesia is still from fossil energy, with coal and natural gas as the main contributor. Even though the Indonesian National Energy Council said that the potential of renewable energy in Indonesia is actually very big, and the utilization in 2021 was only about 0.3%. Therefore, as an effort to keep the consistency to the Paris Agreement, to limit the increase of the global average temperature to 1.5 degrees Celsius, in 2022, Indonesian government submitted 2 documents to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. These 2 documents are Enhanced Nationally Determined Contribution and Long-Term Strategy for Low Carbon Climate Resilience. In these 2 documents, the government of Indonesia pledged to achieve the peak of emission in the country in 2030. And starting from that year, it is expected that the emission will gradually going down if the rate of emission decrease can be maintained at about 30.7 metric ton per year. It is predicted that net zero emission will be achieved in 2060. And this is very excellent target, but realizing it, of course, not a simple task. As we see in the initial slide of this presentation, that there are at least 5 sectors that need to be handled collectively, which is energy, land use change and forestry, agriculture, waste and industrial process. And for this research project, I will focus on the energy sectors, specifically on these 2 mitigation strategies that have been established by the government, which is energy efficiency and transition to renewable energy sources. For simplification, net zero emission in the energy sector means balancing between emission produced by power plants, transportation, industry, commercial and residential buildings, and emission absorbed from the atmosphere. Although this ambitious goal seems encouraging to mitigate climate change, but there still be a long way to achieve this net zero emission in Indonesia. At least these 4 points that I highlight, the issues arise in the energy sector in the context of achieving net zero emission in Indonesia. The first one, the very obvious obstacle is the limited financial capacity of the government and state electricity company to quickly develop renewable energy sources and early retire the fossil power plants, which involves more than 200,000 workers. And at the same time, the government also want to keep develop the economy. This is the very first obstacle of this target. And the second one, although the Indonesian government has promised to start to reduce the usage of the coal power plants in Indonesia and completely stop it in 2050, but this policy actually only applicable for general power plants. But for the captive power plants, for industrial zones, the government still allowing to build it. So it is proven in recent months that at least 5 national banks in Indonesia providing fresh money or a loan to the private sector to build new captive coal power plants in Indonesia that can operate at least until 60 years. And then the third issue is about the State Electricity Company. As a monopoly company for electricity distribution and retail in Indonesia, this company also seems yet to show its support to achieve this net zero emission as its 10 years business plan of this company. The electricity sector still expecting to increase new coal and gas power plants until 2030. And regarding energy efficiency, considering the highest portion of household consumers among other consumers in Indonesia, there seems a lack of effort done by the government and the electricity company to promote this energy efficiency and energy conservation. Also, the government of Indonesia has established a policy regarding energy star labeling similar to here in Australia, but it seems that that policy is not working very well. And for the electricity company, with many studies conducted in other countries to explore about benefit providing customers with additional information like feeding the customers with information to save more energy in Indonesia, even electricity bills are never regularly received by the household customers. So this condition often change to further explore about energy situation in Indonesia. So based on the issues and context that I mentioned before, there are 3 research questions developed for this research project. The first one, how the political economy of energy policy landscape could contribute to achieving net zero emission by 2060 in Indonesia. The second one are the informational knowledge, including providing electricity bills to household, can promote household energy conservation. And the third, what are the factors affecting household energy consumption? And for the objectives of this research project, first to comprehensively understand and provide valuable perspective on Indonesia's energy landscape and government strategy through a political economy lens, specifically in the context of achieving net zero emission, to acquire knowledge and insight on the impacts of informational knowledge such as electricity bill encouraging energy conservation among households, and to identify and quantify the factors that affect household energy consumption. I will start by explaining this, my second project, because I will spend most of my time during my PhD with this study. This study will be conducted to answer the second research question of are the informational knowledge, including providing electricity bill to household effectively effectively affect household energy conservation. This study will be conducted in 2 cities in Indonesia. The approach that will be used is a field experiment with participant is expected about 100 household customers of electricity company. And here are the steps that I plan to conduct for this study. After several discussions with the electricity company in Indonesia, we decided to conduct this study in 2 cities in Indonesia, in Yogyakarta City in Java Island, the most developed island in Indonesia, and in Denpasar City in Bali Island. Of course, because this experiment will involve humans, so I have to get approval from the human research ethics before commencing all these steps. And after getting approval, I have to get the list of customers, household customers who have power 1,300 and 2,200 voltage ampere in these 2 cities. And after getting that list, I will randomly select 300 potential participants in Yogyakarta and 300 potential participants in Denpasar. Why choosing these 2 household groups? Because these 2 household groups account for the highest share of household customers in Indonesia, and the tariff of these 2 household groups is the same. And with this power capacity, it is considered that this household already have the ability to use several electronic appliances simultaneously, like turning on TV while using washing machine and turning on the air conditioning and so on. The recruitment of participants will be conducted by PLN officers from the electricity company. And before recruiting all participants, there will be a pilot test to ensure the feasibility and suitability of the recruitment approach and the design of the pre-experiment survey. After recruiting all participants, 600, I will collect the historical bills of the participants. For the last 12 months, this data will be used for analysis after completing this experiment. And each participant will be assigned either in the control group or in a treatment group. There will be one control group consists of 200 participants and 4 treatment groups, and each treatment group consists of 100 participants. The selection of this participant will be determined using the stratified randomization. So based on the similarity of some socioeconomic characteristic of this participant, they will be assigned either in the control or the treatment group. And for the treatment groups participants, they will get informational knowledge. I will explain in the next slide. Informational knowledge every month through email and WhatsApp app for 12 months. And after these 12 months, there will be a brief post-experiment survey asking about the perception of about this participant regarding saving energy, and all data of this experiment will be analyzed using difference model. And as I mentioned before, the control group consists of 200 participants and will not receive any treatment except for answering the pre-experiment and post-experiment surveys. And first treatment group will receive only electricity bill. This electricity bill is the same as electricity bill from the PLN mobile app. Actually, there is a feature in the PLN mobile app, but not all customers are aware of this feature, and the electricity company never informs or disseminates the customers about the existence of this application and even this electricity bill feature. The second treatment group will receive electricity bill plus economic information. Economic information in the study, like information about the electricity consumption and the cost associated of some home appliances, like using air conditioning for 8 hours in a day will consume 5 kilowatt hours, and the cost about $5. So something information like that. And then the treatment group 3 will receive electricity bill plus environmental information. The environmental information will include information about the benefit of reducing electricity consumption to air quality and emissions. And The fourth segment groups will receive all information knowledge, electricity bill, economic information, and environmental information. And this is the example of the electricity bill from the PLN mobile app. In general, the information available only about the electricity consumption, tariff, and total bill for this billing period. And this is the design of the economic information on the right-hand side, and then environmental information in the left-hand side. And that's for my second study. For this study one, this study will be conducted to answer the first research question of how political economy on energy policy could contribute to achieve net zero emission in 2060 in Indonesia. This study will be conducted as a review study. The primary idea of this study is that policymakers are usually neglectful in making environmental decisions because decision making is not only based on logical consideration for long-term interest. This condition caused, for example, by unpopular environmental policy like eliminating energy subsidies, the involvement of influential groups, or simply because the government prefers economic development instead of environmental improvement. And the political economy framework developed by Jacob consists of actors, objectives, and context will be used in this study. The actors in this case, like the president, member of parliament, or state-owned companies, and the objectives like energy security, and the context like natural resource endowment, economic development, or climate change mitigation. So depending who the actors are, what socioeconomic objective, and what context is present during decision-making process, these three factors interact to shape a political decision. And this is the framework or approach that will be used in this study. The actors in the study is the government and parties involved in developing, in formulating regulation, state electricity company, non-government organization, and academics. The objectives, of course, the net zero emission in 2060, and the context will be energy policy and situation, emission, economic development, and commitment to climate change mitigation. As we see in this framework, that most of the sources of this study will be coming from the government documents, either law or reports, but I also will include the report from business sector, from the non-government organization, and academic articles to enrich my perspective on this review. There are 4 points want to be highlighted. The first about the status of energy sector on the development plan of the country. The second one, the historical, present, and expected energy condition. The third, current and expected emission in Indonesia, and challenges in realizing net zero emission in the energy sector in Indonesia. And this is the third study. This study will be conducted to answer the third research question of what factors affect energy consumption in the household in Indonesia. This study will use secondary data from National Social Economic Survey of Indonesia from 2017 to 2023. There are 5 provinces selected in this study. These 5 provinces were selected because these 5 provinces have the highest gross regional domestic product in 5 major islands in Indonesia. The number of observation of this survey is about 10,000 per province each year. So in a year there will be 50,000 observation, and for this period 7 years there will be about 350,000 observation or households. However, because this survey, the respondents of this survey is not the same every year, it cannot be analyzed as panel data. Instead, this study will use a repeated cross-sectional approach using OLS estimation. I understand that the OLS estimation is quite vulnerable to some statistical issue, especially if some assumption cannot be satisfied. But at this planning stage, the OLS estimation is considered, and it will be developed or changed after all data is collected or further analyzed. Well, I think that's all. Thank you very much.
So that's a very interesting collection of studies. I think it makes a nice mix of different approaches.
Yes.
It's a comment, and it also applies to Putri as well. Is going back to your research questions. I like to use research questions as a way of focusing my attention and making sure that I'm very clear about the specifics of what I'm really going to do and what I'm going to get out of the research. So I think it helps when you're thinking about what is my actual research question, think about what you would write in the conclusion of a paper.
Yeah.
Could you answer that question? What would be the answer to that question, right? So I think for your third one, that you could answer that, right? But for the first two, I think you might need to just think about them a bit. You know, what when you say how the political economy could contribute, what does that mean, right? It's not quite tight enough as a question, right? You want a question that you can actually answer.
Yeah.
Imagine what the answer could be, and then say, okay, is that a good answer? Is this question helping me direct my effort in a way that I'll have a good answer at the end?
Yeah. I understand that it's too broad.
It's a bit sort of wishy-washy, you know. It's a bit sort of general.
Yeah. I understand. Thank you.
On the nudge study, have you done a power analysis to see whether the sample of 100 in each of the treatments is big enough for you to be able to detect anything?
Yes, I already done initial power analysis, and it's quite good with about 90% power of this sample size.
Okay, so you've got some effect size that you think is economically significant in terms of their shift in their consumption.
Not in specific, but just calculating about this the size of the sample, 200 in the control group, because there will be 4 treatment groups. So how can I say that? And I will think about that again later, about the estimation of the sample size.
Back to the slide where you showed the treatment. Yeah, so maybe there's a question for clarifications. If you look at your control group, so as I understand, treatment for group 1 is just the baseline in your treatment, or what's the difference between the control group and when you say treatment for group 1? Because you will present them with electricity. And my second question is because when you say like, okay, in the following treatment, you're going to add another information with economics and environmental informations, and this will be just like information on individual basis, or is relative to like social comparisons building, because it's more effective. If you show that your own individual consumption, it might not be effective way to nudge people to do things. And when you talk about nudge-based mechanism to encourage people to like promote effective energy consumption, then there's 4 approach, what they call a nudge toolkit. When you can use simplification or framing of information, that's what you're going to do. But I think what's lacking here is you just focus, because you going to provide information, I think, over time.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like a dynamic information in this case. And if you provide dynamic information on individual houses, households that good, but it should, like if you can compare with their neighbors or in the areas, so they have a benchmark to compare themselves with others. That's better to nudge people that way. And back to the point, this is informational nudge, but there is the other ways that you can think of, because in a nudge toolkit you can kind of changes to like physical environment, changes to policy defaults and use of social norms as well. So there's different ways, approaches to nudge people with energy consumption. So you might be interested in looking into that literature.
Yeah, thank you very much for the comments. I will look at the, like you said, the comparison of the one household with the others, and then give information to one household. Like I saw.
It's not only stated information, but for example, you send the nudge in the first month, then the second month, you have to send it in a different way. You relative to the first month, and then also relative to other people as well. So that make information more like informative, and also it's kind of, you always say, okay, I'm doing this, but I don't know how good I am relative to others.
Yeah, that's kind of electricity bill from the Victoria state. I saw from OPPO, something like that, and there is a comparison like that. Yeah, thank you for the comment.
But just to go to the one about electricity bill, the electricity bill is something which everybody gets anyway. So how is this different to the control?
I don't think they do.
No, this electricity bill is from the PLN mobile app, and not all customers are aware of this feature. Actually, in Indonesia, the customers of the PLN are never regularly received.
So how do you know they're going to look at this? You're going to tell them that there is an app on your phone that you can actually look to get this information. How do you know whether they actually use the information or access the information?
I will get the information from the electricity company, because the first thing that I have to do is getting the list of the household electricity customers, and then filter it which one who already have this. So I will not select as the participants of this study. And then for this study, it will be specifically based, this nudge will be sent through the email and WhatsApp app of the customers. So in the pre-experiment survey, there are questions asking about the email and WhatsApp app, and this information will be used to be used to send this informational nudge to all participants.
I'm still not sure as to how you're going to guarantee that they actually.
But it's not impossible, almost. You can stick your choice experiment in front of people. I mean, you don't necessarily know exactly what they're paying attention to.
No, that's true. But I just wondering about how you.
So
for that one, how you can
ensure that people will see this kind of.
The seeing is obvious. But I mean, they may or may not use the information. But that one is the one which I wasn't sure as to how the difference was, what she was saying, between the control and the treatment.
How can
they access the invoice today if you want?
Yeah.
How can they access and go and see the invoice, the bill you want?
It's
a physical copy, or they have an account, the system, they log in, download it.
Yes.
The way you can access it.
Just download the app, and then register using their information, like account number and so on, and then they will get this kind of information.
The ones that don't get a bill, how do they pay for their electricity?
No, we just go to the banks or post office or banks using mobile banking, and we don't know how much we will pay before we pay it. Yeah.
But you know how much you'll pay after you paid it?
Yes, we know, but only the total amount. But before paying it, we actually don't know how much we will pay, and we have to prepare as much as
But you do each month, you discover how much it's cost you, because you've got to pay it. It's not getting a bill doesn't mean you don't know how much it's costing you.
You won't know the breakdown between supply versus consumption. Like there'll be other details too.
Yes.
Yeah.
We only know after paying.
That information was the beginning of all of this, and we asked him, check yourself, and he said, I go and pay, and only then I know how much energy I consume. And then we started talking about the bills, and now I think that's why the information of bill itself is a treatment.
Yeah. There are some Indonesian students, you can ask them whether they receive this electricity.
But we were surprised to hear in the first instance, like you were surprised.
It sounds like a good system from the utilities point of view.
Yes.
How many people, yeah, like almost everyone does direct debit now. How many people look at their bills ever?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just can I ask one question? Is the company planning for those that decrease consumption to incentivize in an economic way, like to reduce the cost per kilowatt or not? After 12 months, you reduce your consumption because you have a benchmark and you're doing better. Are they planning to incentivize them with a discount or rebate?
No, actually, for the company point of view, their motivation is increasing consumption because currently, especially in Java Island, it's the production of electricity is surplus. So, for the point of the company, they want to increase the consumption of customers, but this is just for the purpose of the study to see behavior of customers, whether they will change their behavior, reduce their consumption after getting this kind of information.
I just remember reading something about it being quite an effective method where you get on your bill the information that shows whether you're above or below the average in that area. And I wondered if in your economic you might include that as part of your information.
Another thing.
Quite a useful, as part of your economic information that you're providing, a comparator.
Yeah, yes. Thank you. Right.
Or even to your own last year or whatever.
So comparing with the other neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think of that peer. Am I in line with my peers? You know.
Thank you.
Yeah. So my question is a little bit more the practical implementation, because this is an analysis. So are you working with the companies to actually, depending on the area, this is the treatment they will get. So how will you be able to get your treatment groups?
My apologies.
Because like if it's in an app, so how will that, in your treatment, so they will be randomly assigned, right?
Yes.
So you're working with the company?
Yes, electricity company.
To implement this.
Yes.
And then so it's just all random?
Yes. So we already have several meetings and discussion about this project, and the electricity company supports with this idea just for the purpose of this study. Yes.
So, okay, thank you. So I think in that case, there's really a possibility of you including not just the information nudge, but also the social norm nudge by just a comparison.
Yeah.
And also, in terms of the comparison, it might be more relevant if the comparison group is in that area because, similar conditions. Because if it's a national one, it may not be applicable. So, the design is critical when you do your nudges.
Yes.